This is the International Conference Center, an enormous building, so-called Spaceship. 313 meters long, 80 meters wide, and 40 meters high. Built back in 1979 during the days of West Berlin, it was designed to be one of the biggest conference halls in the world, with space for 20,000 people and a wild sci-fi-inspired interior that looked straight out of the future. The building cost $1 billion in today's money. Although it was Europe's largest Congress venue at the time, it has never operated at full capacity. Out of all 80 rooms, only a few were ever used, while the rest never hosted a single event. And for the past decade, the entire building has been completely empty. Why? The Berlin government's burning a ton of cash each year just to keep this massive empty building from falling apart. What does it look like inside today? And if it hasn't been used for over a decade, why not just demolish it? We will take you to the so-called Battlestar Galactica. To understand how this spaceship landed in West Berlin, we've got to jump back a few decades. After World War II, the victorious powers divided Berlin into several zones. The Soviet-controlled area became part of East Germany, a socialist state, while the western part of the city, though technically still occupied, was for all practical purposes part of West Germany, a capitalist state. Socialism and capitalism, two different worlds, even with two different currencies. On August 13, 1961, Berliners woke up to a divided city. Overnight, the East German government had sealed the border with walls, splitting families apart. Officially, they claimed it was to protect the country. In reality, it was a desperate move to stop people from escaping to the West, where opportunity, higher wages, and freedom looked a whole lot better. So after the Berlin Wall was built, the Cold War tension between capitalism and communism got a whole lot more intense. It turned into a full-on economic battle. If one side developed faster or better than the other, it would be seen as a defeat. Even everyday things like city infrastructure turned into tools for competition. East and West Berlin began shaping their skylines in totally different ways, with architecture that mirrored their clashing ideologies. For example, West Berlin built the Philharmonie in 1963, a modern architectural masterpiece designed for the world-renowned Berliner Philharmoniker. In response, East Berlin put up the 368-meter TV tower in 1969, a futuristic propaganda symbol with a restaurant and viewing deck. Then, in 1976, East Berlin built another one, the Palace of the Republic, a flashy marble and wood structure built to house the Volkskammer, East Germany's parliament. It was designed to show off the regime's strength and confidence. So West Berlin fired back with the ICC in 1979, the world's biggest Congress center. Unlike the Palace of the Republic, which served the Communist Party, this wasn't about politics. It was about business, trade fairs, capitalist ambition, and proving that West Berlin could stand on its own as a global city. At its grand opening, Federal President Walter Scheel even declared the ICC would outlast the Great Pyramids of Giza. And this wasn't just one giant hall either. The ICC was made up of 80 separate conference rooms, from tiny 7-square-meter spaces to massive halls built for thousands. On the entrance level, you've got everything: elevators, escalators, and a wide gallery level lined with offices, info counters, cloakrooms, restrooms, and even a restaurant. The staircases and foyers were next level for the time. Geometric op-art carpets, and a sci-fi-like guidance system using red and blue glowing tubes. Total 70s techno-futurism. And it doesn't stop there. The higher you go, the futuristic vibe only gets stronger. Side lobbies, central lobbies, the massive main lobby, and at the top, two giant halls that make up the heart of the ICC, with space for up to 9,000 people combined. Walking inside honestly feels like stepping into real-life Star Wars. This building was a futuristic, high-tech marvel, unlike anything Berlin had seen before. It symbolized the city's push for modernity and technological progress. And you can see it not just inside, but outside too, with its exposed steel beams, sharp angles, and machine-like look.
Well, I gotta say, from above, it kind of looks like a giant semi-truck, with a trailer in the back, a cabin up front, and even what look like wheels. What do you think?
Kinda. But locals actually call it the Battleship, or the Aluminum Monster. But over the years, the building really struggled to fulfill its initial purpose. It's just too massive. Most events brought in only 6,000 to 8,000 people, leaving many halls sitting empty.
Here's a fun fact. Before the ICC, there was the Congress Hall called the Pregnant Oyster. It only held 1,200 people, so West Berlin needed something bigger. The architects first planned for 4,000 seats, but tourism experts said that's not enough, so they raised it to 12,000. Even that wasn't enough, so the project blew up into the most expensive building in West Berlin.
Ah, that makes sense. Even though it cost nearly $1 billion, it never really paid off. It's way too big for most events, and high maintenance scares away bookings. At peak, it only had 8,000 attendees in a space for 20,000, making the cost per visitor crazy high. In 2014, ICC was completely abandoned, not because of underutilization, but something worse. ICC materials contain asbestos, a white asbestos. Asbestos fibers are so tiny and sharp that, once inhaled, they penetrate the pleura, the lungs' protective lining, and cause scarring. Over time, this leads to asbestosis, shortness of breath, a persistent dry cough, and chest pain, and greatly increases the risk of lung cancer. Asbestos became widely used in construction after World War II because it was strong, cheap, heat-resistant, and abundant. The ICC Berlin, like many buildings from that era, was constructed with asbestos-containing materials, including insulation and cement.
Wait, lung cancer? Does that mean nobody could ever go inside? I mean, I read the ICC was used as a COVID vaccination center for a couple of months, even though it still had asbestos.
Just walking through or being inside isn't usually dangerous if the asbestos-containing materials are properly maintained, sealed, and left undisturbed. The risk remains very low. It only becomes hazardous when those materials are drilled, cut, or broken, because that's when microscopic fibers can be released into the air and inhaled.
So you can't safely do any major renovation or tech upgrades without fully removing the asbestos first.
Exactly, and stuff like the sewage system, ventilation, elevators, and electrical wiring are all decades old. They seriously need replacing, but the whole process is super complicated and crazy expensive. Just the asbestos removal alone costs around 65 million euros, and the rest of the renovation would be another 182 million euros. So yeah, around 259 million euros total. No wonder the ICC's been stuck in limbo all these years. Even if someone, or Berlin itself, got rid of the asbestos, they still can't demolish the building because it's one of the city's most iconic landmarks. It was officially listed as a historical monument in 2019, so it's protected by monument law. Demolition is off the table. The only option now is to refurbish it. That's why the city launched an international competition and started looking for investors who could bring it back to life, remodel it, and open it up to the public. And to sweeten the deal, they're even offering the space rent-free for 99 years. But still, no takers.
Could it be because of Denkmalschutz? Doesn't that mean everything has to be recreated in the original style?
Yeah, that's part of it. But there are more problems too. First, the building is super inefficient. Only about 20% of the space can actually be rented out to make money. The other 80% is just corridors, stairwells, and service areas. Second, the location sucks for most new uses. It's surrounded by rail lines and the Autobahn, so it's not great for housing or a park. Sure, you could move things around for €1 billion, but no one can justify spending that kind of money. This building's been passed from one Berlin government to the next for 2 decades, and no one's managed to find a solution. Honestly, I don't see anything major happening with it anytime soon either. And yeah, while the building looks awesome to some, I just can't see myself feeling comfortable there. No daylight, like I'm stuck in a damn cave. Confusing staircases, endless levels, walkways, tunnels. It gives me weird vibes. Definitely worse inside than out.
See, I actually love that about it. The artificial materials, the design, it feels like a movie set in the best way. Here's what I'd do. Build a shopping center, offices, an IT hub, and keep using it as a conference center, plus boost tourism. All that can be done without damaging the architectural features, keeping the building's character intact so I'd get the green light from the Heritage Office, Denkmalschutz. It's better to make these kinds of buildings mixed use so they stay profitable and alive over time.